coast are you from?
US.
Oh, wow. That's quite a distance.
From where?
Excellent. From Sweden.
Oh, really?
Wow.
We're going to take the bus up to St. Thomas Church, which is our start of our walking tour.
Sorry.
Lindy needs to turn off his mic there. Anybody with hearing aids, you might want to turn them off.
Well, there's no wax in my ear anymore.
We're good? All right, so we good?
There you go now.
So along the way, we're going to come across it's not a new war memorial, but this year we had the Unknown Soldier, the only second one in Canada ever, and it's now here at the War Memorial. So you'll see that there. It's just around the corner. If you get by this afternoon, you got some time. If you want to take a look, it's a really nice war memorial. Across the street from that is Harborside Park. Normally on Fridays they have music, picnics and stuff. Unfortunately, that's finished for the season right now, but it is a nice little park. It's got a Newfoundland dog and a Labrador retriever in sculptures. They're not real. Actually, did anybody see the Newfoundland dog that was here this morning? Okay, normally they have a real Newfoundland dog greeting the ship as it comes in. So welcome to St. John's, one of the oldest cities in North America. I don't know anybody who's done any of the history of St. John's. There's some tours that go out to Cape Spear, which is the most easterly point in North America. And St. John's being the oldest, we were discovered by John Cabot, Giovanni Caboto, for anybody who's European. John came over and John left the port of a port in England to make his way over on behalf of the Queen and try to find some new land, hence the name Newfoundland. When he came, we had an abundance of fish. It was a community that really thrived on the fishery. And Cabot found us, sent information back to England that he had found this Newfoundland. There was mounds and mounds and mounds of fish, good place to settle. So after that, everybody started coming. So we are a Commonwealth country, being Canada. Newfoundland was separate from Canada until 1949, but we were under British rule. So you'll see a lot of references to the British, and you'll see a lot of similarities to some of if anybody's been to Ireland or England, you'll see a lot of similarities to stuff that we have there.
Okay, this is St. Thomas Anglican Church. This is actually the oldest church in Newfoundland and Labrador, and one of the oldest wooden church structures in North America. It was built in the 1830s. And again, as Tina mentioned earlier, this was the outskirts of St. John's, and the merchants, the wealthy, the middle class, they wanted a church that was outside of the downtown region. So in conjunction with the British garrison, they secured this plot of land here, and it was funded by the British garrison because they wanted a place of worship as well for the military. So the agreement was that on a Sunday morning, for example, one side of the church would be designated for the military. So as I stated, it was built in the 1830s. 10 years later, because St. John's is notorious as being a very windy city, the church, if you can see like the middle part, not this part, the church actually blew off the foundation several inches because of the wind. So it was then that the side wings were added as stabilizers for the church back then. A couple interesting features about this church is the spiral, and of course the tower is also unique to this particular church. Yeah, so let's walk over this way now towards our keep on coming. General, built in the 1820s actually, and it's a Georgian style structure, and this over here we When the British military moved out, this became the rectory
Lindy.
for the St. Thomas Anglican Church.
Lindy,
It was at some point. How about now? Testing, 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 testing. All right. It was the a rectory for the St. Thomas Anglican Church after the military itself. It also was an orphanage. It was a hospital at one point. It's been restored, and in the summer months, summer season, it is open to the public for tours, as is the carriage room right here. At Christmas time, it's all decorated. Those are cheap microphones. Christmas time is all decorated here, and it has people here dressed up with the clothing costumes that they wore back then. This is all open door, everything is open to tours, and they have like bonfires, and they have caroling here for probably about 2 weeks and during the Christmas season here.
this was probably one of the most important places for the soldiers, because this is where they'd get their rum. Right? So the rum was stored here. This is where they'd come and get their stash and be able to carry on.
The street.
We're still doing that?
Why you keeping me waiting? All I wanna be and you, been so long, been so long. Why you keeping me waiting?
The wheel and from an island off named Kelly's Island. It's going to be a problem with the microphone, I think, because I'm supposed to be the mouse probably. The granite for this structure was taken from Signal Hill, as you saw on the Narrows when you're coming in there, and from Kelly's Island, and from the other side of the harbor there as well. So Cochrane was a little bit particular and hard to please when they were building this. He changed the plans numerous times. It actually cost 3 times more than what the original cost was. It was the home and residence of the governor and a lot of also military personnel as well. The current lieutenant governor is Joan Marie Elward. She's actually our second female governor general. Last year we had Judy Foote. She was the first female lieutenant governor. She was in office for 4 years. So now we have a new one as of just last year. On these grounds, over here we have the Tree of Life there, the statue, the carving of the Tree of Life is what Lieutenant Governor Judy Foote wanted. And it has on it all kinds of beautiful symbols representing Newfoundland and Labrador. You'll see like a codfish, a moose, you'll see a pitcher plant, you'll see different kinds of animals there, and different things that represent Newfoundland.
Here on the grounds, every time we have any dignitaries or kings or queens from other places, they usually plant a tree. And with this one, it was starting to die. So instead of just cutting it down, Her Honourable Judy decided they'd get it carved. So it's carved by a local artist.
Yes, and there's trees on the ground planted by prominent people. Prince Charles, Lady Diana, Eleanor Roosevelt has planted over here. At the far end there, we have the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, which is our police. Their stables are there for the horses. It's down there. Down at that end, we have the Nonia statue. So for 100 years, ladies in Outport, rural Newfoundland, they would do knitting and crafts that they would make and sell to pay for their public health nurses. And that was done for years. And so after, when it became government funded, they still continued to do it as a means of raising money for their own use, their own benefit. Over that way, right there, that's a new memorial there for it's called the Heart Garden. And it represents survivors and victims of residential schools. It's probably there for about 4 years now. this building was constructed by Irish labor, actually was brought in. Cochran was afraid of snakes, so therefore they constructed a moat right around the residence of Government House. Now, ironically, there are no snakes in Newfoundland, so you know, really they built it there for light to get into the basement of the building for the most part. During the construction, Andrew Kiełowski was a Polish painter.
Andrew Pindinkowski.
Pindinkowski was a Polish
Pindinkowski
painter.
was a beautiful Polish painter,
Yes.
and he got arrested and sent to jail for forgery because he was so good at his art that he was able to forge checks. So just down the road here a bit is our penitentiary, and Andrew was sent to jail there, and they realized he was a good artist, so he was asked by the government, well, he wasn't asked, he was told basically, we'll give you so many weeks off your sentence if you come up and do some paintings. So the frescoes inside, unfortunately we're not going to be able to go inside, we might be able to get into the front porch. But he came up, he painted the ceilings. The guard that was with him, that was there every day, after a couple of days realized, this guy's no harm, this is no problem. So, you know, he'd go off and do his thing, or he'd let Pindinkowski go off and wander around the building. Because the Pindinkowski actually taught the guard how to paint. And inside in one of the rooms there's a female face. Rumor has it that Pindinkowski had a romance with one of the maids inside, and Carmody, I think her name was, and I think they can trace it back to Boston, that's where her, you know, she had a child, they moved to Boston, and she raised a child there. But in the frescoes in the room, there's a female face, and that's what's believed to be was the maid that he fell in love with. He's also done paintings on the ceilings over Colonial House, where we'll go. And when we get to the Basilica, there's the Presentation Convent behind that. And the Presentation Convent also has a ceiling painted by Pindinkowski. All that painting, and all they gave him was 5 weeks off his sentence. Jeez.
All right, let's see if the door's open. Prior to this, we didn't have really a place that we called home for our legislature. So they would often meet in a tavern downtown that they would rent. For 18 years, actually, they were doing that in different spots. Until eventually they got kicked out by the lady who owned the bar because they weren't paying their rent. So
Miss Mary Travers has got a little key off for, you know, coming in, using their facilities, using the property, having a few beers, and then not paying their rent. And it wasn't because they really weren't going to, it's just because it was a new government that I think one hand didn't know what the other one, same as today's government, I suppose. One hand doesn't know what the other one is doing, and the finance department never paid it. And Mrs. a very strong woman who said, "Get the, here in Newfoundland, say, get to Jesus." But that's the terminology. Get out. We've had enough of it. So they decided that they'd build this place so that they would have an actual real place to live.
Yeah, so it was here that, you know, the laws and rules and regulations, the Newfoundland society, culture, and economy is where they were made right here. And again, it took a while. It took a long time to build all these things because the Newfoundland government was so strategic and dead on selling or paying down their war debt, unlike a lot of places. They wanted to get rid of the debt as opposed to putting their money into buildings and funding infrastructures of that nature. So as I say, it was here. It was a home for the legislature for 100 years. It was also on the back there was a bank, the Newfoundland Bank. So this is actually the site of the first bank robbery in Newfoundland Labrador. It was two gentlemen. They stole, I think it was probably 450 pounds from the bank, probably. But anyways, they were eventually caught and were made to pay it back as well. There was a big riot here in the late 1850s because people weren't happy with how things were governed and the mismanagement. So it was like 10,000 people marched on this place and it was a riot. The premier at the time, Squires, of course, managed to escape, but only when he changed his clothing into women's clothing. He had to put on a dress and a coat and a bandana and everything else. And that was how they got him out of here. And he survived, of course, that riot back in the late 1850s.
Most governments actually sit on the left or on the right. The sitting party or main party sits on the right. Here in Newfoundland they sit on the left because that's where the eaters were.
Yeah.
So they were not stunned.
18,000 pounds is what it cost to build this building back in the 1850s. Yeah, 18,000 pounds.
And you can tell from when you come back down over the steps, if you look above, you can tell the connection to Great Britain. There's the lion for England. In the emblem, you'll see a harp, which represents Ireland. You'll see the three lions. You'll see the dragon, which represented Wales. And then this one represented Scotland. So that's
Where all the elections and debates took place here in this building, whether or not Newfoundland would.
I think this is the great clock tower.
So there's talks of Newfoundland because
Doc Brown should be popping out at any time because last night we did go back to the future an hour and a half.
So yeah, this is Bannerman Park. Governor Bannerman was actually the first non-military governor that we had. So he donated or gave this plot of land to the city for their public use. Because you needed to have a green space, a place where people could hang out and where they could enjoy themselves. So back in the 1800s, on this particular site here, there was a skating rink here, and you'll see it over there. That's the same one, of course. And there was also a curling rink here as well. So currently here they have what you call the loop. So it's a skating area, and it kind of goes like in the shape of like a figure 8 or whatever. And that was probably constructed probably 7 or 8 years ago, but it's packed here in the winter time when people want to come to skate. It's beautiful here. Also on these grounds here, we have the ball field down there. We have an outdoor swimming pool. There's a splash pad on the other side of the building there. It's the home of a major concert we do. The folk festival is done there in July. So it's like maybe 5 nights of concerts, bands we bring in from all over the country. For the summer months. And we also do like in October, late October now, they do like a pumpkin march. So after Halloween, everybody brings in their pumpkins and they line them up right along the park, and then they'll have several nights designated where people will come in and they just walk around and see all the carvings. They're all lit, and it's a beautiful time there.
What else do we have there? It's a space where this is right in the middle of the city now. So we have another park of the same size in the west end of the city called Barron Park, but this is probably the more popular, one. You see the hammocks here in the summertime, and people hang out. You do the big old concerts here, and it's a great space. And it's also in the downtown core, just you know. There's a lovely coffee shop right over there. If you right down there is a beautiful coffee shop called the Parlor, yeah. So this is what we call this is the Georgetown part of St. John's over right there. Okay, so yeah.
Soldiers coming home. Usually when you see monuments of soldiers, usually they're in like the firing position or that kind of thing. This one recognizes the soldiers that came home. So this is one of Matthew Braga and one of the persons in his family. So they came back. So in Canada, July 1st is Canada Day. In Newfoundland, it's also Memorial Day. So it's a big celebration and a very somber experience all into one day. And on July 1st, over in Beaumont-Hamel, the Battle of the Somme, you know, Newfoundland being part of Britain at the time, they all went, they called for forces. A lot of Newfoundlanders signed up. Tommy Ricketts was 15 years old. You had to be 17 to join the army. Tommy lied about his age and joined, and they went over to France to fight. Now back in the World War I days, it was all trench fighting. So you had the barbed wire and the trenches dug and whatnot. And the Newfoundland battalion, known as the Blue Puttees, so it kind of differentiated them from other battalions. And you can see from the statue here, you can see those wrappings around the leg. All of in the Newfoundland battalion had those wrappings, and it was blue. So that's how they got the name the Blue Puttees. So they all went out, they went towards the Germans. Basically, you get up out of a trench and you run and shoot, is basically how that warfare went. Tommy Ricketts and Matthew Brazel were two towards the front line. They got part way, realized that they were all running out of ammunition. So the whole platoon kind of had to stop. They had nothing, right? So they were kind of just, calves to the slaughter kind of thing. And Tommy Ricketts and Matthew Brazel said, I'll go back. So Matthew stayed there with the troops, let them know what was happening. Tommy ran back to let the commanding officer know they needed more ammunition. He bought back what he could off any soldiers that he saw that had died. That was clear. In that battle of Beaumont-Hamel, 800 Newfoundlanders went out that day. The roll call the next morning, there was only 68 of them remaining. So you saw the War Memorial downtown, brief glances we drove by. So it's a very important area, and the unknown soldier came from Beaumont-Hamel. So it was only just earlier this year that they brought him over. And in England, there's a school called the Beatrix College Elementary School in London. And they actually came over and unveiled the monument. Kids in England, France, Netherlands, all look after, even to this day, they all look after the graves over there. I'm sure you've probably seen pictures of the White Crosses, and you've heard the story of Hoppy and Bandersfield and stuff. So it's very important to the people of Newfoundland to recognize what happened that day and their contribution to the war. So Tommy did come back and he was given the Victoria Cross, the highest level of honor you can get from the British government. Matthew Brazel, because he helped was kind of the main guiding of that and this stuff, was given the distinguished medals, distinguished valor medal, I think it's called. But again, the statue here is about coming home. It's not about killing in war, right? So you don't see it gone. It's just a family. So that's, like I said, July 1st. Canada Day. So you go in the morning, do your duty and appreciate the sacrifice that was given to us. And in the afternoon, you go have a few beers and have Canada Day party. Classical music, it's a big deal here. And if you come up on the steps, you can actually see Cabot Tower, and across you see the Narrows at Fort Amherst. So that's where you would have come in through on your ship.
Which is where a lot of the grandmother's church came from.
That's right, came from Signal Hill. So Bishop Fleming, even though, he was the bishop, he was hands-on. He wanted this to do so bad. He was even in boats helping them put the rock in. So he is buried in the crypt in here. A lot of beautiful statues and stuff. Again, I was saying to a couple earlier, everywhere you travel, there's always churches, right? Every tour takes you to churches. And I guess that's because this is where the community was. This is where everybody, met, all the big events happened. And again, this is what here. Around the corner is not the gathering place over here. That was Sisters of Mercy. And around the back is the Presentation nuns that came from Ireland. So we had Christian brothers and nuns come from Ireland to teach over here. And so that was in those schools there and across the way is Presentation, which is now a condo. Part of it was condo, the other part was the British BIS, the Benevolent Irish Society, which was for, they set up an organization for charitable reasons to help out and do what they could for the people of St. John's. Also in here, I don't know if anybody's been to Portugal, but the Portuguese had a big influence in St. John's as well. It was what was called the White Fleet, and they would dock in St. John's, 3-4 ships abreast, and they would do their fishing, and salt cod was a big thing because when you fished, we didn't have fridges and freezers like they do today. So what they would do is they'd clean the fish, they'd put it out on the flakes or the wooden structures, and they'd salt it, so much, and then they could store it for winter. So whenever they needed to cook it, they were able to take it out of this storage area and cook it. So cod au gratin, fish stew, you'll see a lot of the same things you see in Portugal. But because of their connection, they actually donated a statue of Lady of Fatima, which is inside the church. So it's got a lot of connection to a lot of different areas. Like the Irish, the English, the Portuguese, all very Catholic. And like I said, this is what Bishop Fleming wanted to be the mothership of the Catholic Church in Newfoundland. So that's why it's here. Pardon? If there's nothing happening there, are the doors open?
Now we lost them. We lost them. One went swimming. What do you know?
Oh my God.
This is gorgeous. Well, welcome to the Anglican Cathedral of St. John the Baptist. Yes, you would have on your own. Little bit of history there.
Parish is 16.
That's different than the church. There were 4 wooden churches on this site.
4 wooden churches.
Before this was built. So in 1699, people went to the Bishop of London and asked to become a parish and 73. So it was. So we are 325
about to start. Yes.
You're about
We
to
talked
start.
about it on the thing. I was going to talk about how they brought all the things there. I thought it was a safe place to bring it.
And it should be safe.
Should have been.
Stone church, slate roof. So nobody knows how the fire got in here, but the ceiling collapsed, the walls collapsed. So it was badly damaged. It took many years. It was 1905 before it was completely restored. But it was restored to its original design. And the architect was Sir George Gilbert Scott, who was a very famous English architect at the time. And but when it was being rebuilt after the fire, his son was also an architect, and he was able to take his father's plans and rebuild according to the plans. And there's a good Gothic structure, which has many features of Gothic, as you can see. It's very tall, brings your eye up to heaven. Yeah. Things aren't the same in Gothic world. Nature isn't symmetrical, so neither are their buildings. So when you look over here, you see two windows, or two lances, as we call them, with a slanted edge. And then look over here, we have two lances and a flat edge. And further up, we only have one lancet and two lancets. So things are different from side to side in this whole cathedral. And it's most interesting to pick out the little things. And if you look at all the pillars, the 12 pillars, and the 12 apostles, the 12 pillars have these rings called capitals, and every capital is different from the other. Every one of them. They're minutely different or big difference. Yeah. And there's all these little heads on the pillars, as you can see. And most of them we don't know who they are. There was never a good record. But they're not biblical. They were probably governors of the time, common people in the community. We know that we've got Queen Victoria and we've got Albert. But other than that, it's a guess. It could be somebody's grandmother. We don't know.
Where are some of the gargoyles?
Well, there's gargoyles. We've got a really old gargoyle. Some people call these gargoyles, but they're really just stone heads. Gargoyles should be outside because they should be, on a day like today, they can spout the water in. But we don't have them outside because our weather doesn't do well with things like stone. Yeah.
There was one glass that survived the fire, wasn't there?
Yep.
Tell us about that.
One stained glass.
One stained glass.
Up in the sacristy. And funny enough, it's called the Resurrection Door. And it survived the fire. The worst of the fire resulted in damage here in the nave. The chancel wasn't as badly damaged, so that was able to be rebuilt first. So that became the church before they actually rebuilt this.
And there's a picture circulating of the construction. There was a gentleman who got killed during the construction.
Right. You're comforting me, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. So when this part of the church was built, the story goes, the construction worker fell off the roof. So you can imagine anyone who falls off the roof decides not coming back. So after this part of the building was finished, the workers put on their Sunday clothes, they went outside the building, had their picture taken, and in that picture, you can see the worker who died. And there he is in his work clothes.
Is it okay if I pass the picture around?
Well, they can go see it. If you've got the picture there? All right.
From your website.
From the website, yeah. I'm not saying he's looking at it.
The original key for the building is up too, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's all I have.
right. So there's the key, which is quite a large key, back in the day, worked with the fire. Certainly on the ceremonial key, and that would have been off.
What's the thing about the rat?
There was a mummified rat that was sent over from medieval England.
So you can see kind of a faded. So these are all the men who were involved in construction, and this was the young man who supposedly.
That's creepy.
Isn't it?
We have a small cannon in the museum called the Labra. That cannon is on a ship called the Labra. That day, the bishop would use the Labra to go around the province to visit communities. Labra. Why does that happen? Ocean down. Ancient. We have a printout up here. Stunning. You should see. The oldest piece of stone we have here is this gargoyle, which we know is well over 500 years old, maybe closer to 1,000. When John Cabot set sail from Bristol, England in 1497, that gargoyle was on the cathedral in Bristol, the Cathedral of St. Augustine, I think is the name. And when one of our clergy went over in 1967, it was taken off the cathedral for repairs, maintenance, and they gave it to us as our connection with Bristol, with John Cabot in Bristol, and we installed it here because it's safer there than outside. So we know that's our oldest piece of stone.
See the flakes, and flakes are basically just wooden structures that fish were laid out on, and they were salted, kept good. And this would have been the harbour back in the day, very small harbour. All the buildings still there. See the building over here? It's white and it's got like 3 chimneys with a red roof. That's kind of the Murray premises, which you're going to see when we get down here towards the end of the tour, which we're almost at. But we can see this was like the history of Newfoundland right here.
Even today, people still salt their cod in rural Newfoundland for their own personal consumption.
Bacalhau, I think, is what the Portuguese might have called it. Anybody been to Portugal? Yeah. So have you been down to the harbour front? And there's a monument to the sailors on the ground. I don't know if you ever noticed, but there's a map of Terra Nueva, which is Newfoundland. So they, like you said, that connection is very strong with the Portuguese back then. So this was kind of like history. These were the merchants. You can see how well dressed they were, and then you got your workers and everybody was taking stuff up. This is the start or the end of the infamous George Street. Has the most plots per capita in Canada. So it's only a tiny street. During the summer it started off and it's a pedestrian street. So you go back to the Yellow Belly here, it's a very old building. With the Irish history we have here, how it got its name was Irish would come, they had different factions. And this is where they would come with their yellow sashes. And this is where they'd have their fights.
So the jail cell that we just this is where they come from here on Saturday night.
Remember on the mural up here, I pointed out a white building with a red roof? That would be this white building down here with the red roof. It's a big hotel now, but it used to be the place where the fishermen would come in, the merchants would bring all the stuff, barrels and rum and the salt fish and all the shipped from there.
And the statue right here is title, your plaque is here, it says a time. Now in Newfoundland, a time means like a party. Whenever, like on a Saturday night, people might say, come up tonight now for a time. That means we're going to have some music, we're going to have a few drinks, we're going to have maybe a kitchen party, a dance in the kitchen. It's called a time. So this monument here reflects or represents the musicians of Newfoundland and Labrador, instruments that are very popular for Newfoundland and Labrador. And on the front here, you have the most popular musician in Newfoundland and Labrador, Ron Hines, at the front there, who we refer to as the man of 1,000 songs. He wrote 1,000 songs in his lifetime. He died maybe 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Yeah, the most popular entertainer in Newfoundland and Labrador. This street is 2 blocks long. It used to be 6 at one point until the convention center took over some of the land there. The Rob Roy is the oldest bar on this street. It's probably a couple dozen bars there.
Oh, it's quite a load. Some people were looking for some fish stew or for some typical Newfoundland food. Some of the bars here. And at the end of the street, you cross over, there's one called Robert's Pub. They'll also have really good food. But any of the pubs along here will get something to eat. Along the way here, just across the way in this white building over here is a bakery called Birdie's. And Rocket Bakery is around here as well. Craft store, some people are looking for craft store. And this is on Dwyer Bluff, that's the Rocket Buildings here. There's a couple of craft stores.
If you want fish cakes like in soup, just around the corner here is the, Tina just mentioned Rocket Bakery. They have nice fish cakes, they have nice soup. It's all homemade there, okay? And someone...
There's also the Celtic Heart.
The Celtic Heart right there. And then up that way towards the courthouse, there's something on the way we found. We do have duckworth, which I'm going to do with an amazing fish and chips as well.
You can't go around most places. You know, a lot of restaurants around and you'll get some good local food.
And right on the corner here, you can see the words there actually.
Yeah, remember we talked about the Nonia statue at Government Grounds? The Nonia store is right here on the corner and you still sell.
So this is Water Street right there.
So this is kind of the end of the tour.